Okay. Homestuck. Where to begin? No, literally, where do I begin? I have no idea. In preparation for this video, I had to watch multiple summary videos to remember what even happened in the comic. And I was a pretty passionate fan when I was into it, like an entire sketchbook filled of fan art type of fan. I read it a while ago while I was still actively posting and read it up until its end, but since then, I graduated high school, I left for college, I graduated college, and then I started posting to this channel, and here we are now, 8 years later, and I can barely remember what a Homestuck even is. So, in this video, what's a better way to remember one of my favorite comics of all time and celebrate its 15th year anniversary? I'm old, oh my gosh. Than to draw some of my favorite characters. There may be some spoilers in this video, so if you're reading the comic right now, you might want to save this video for later, but yeah, let's just get into it. If you aren't already cursed with knowledge like the rest of us, Homestuck is basically a webcomic series that started back in like 2009, and it had a bunch of different elements such as animations, GIFs, interactive parts to it, but is basically described as a webcomic. The basic premise is described eloquently by Redditor Sam Piper. 4 kids, best friends who have known each other online for years, decide to start a new and still in beta multiplayer game called Spurb. It all starts with our main character John, who gets his package on his birthday. Little did these 4 freshly 13-year-olds know that this game would end the world as soon as they entered. Now the mission is to complete the game and win the prize, a new world for them to shape. And along the way, they meet some other players from another world, aliens called trolls, and there's a few deadly glitches to be bugged out. I think this is a pretty good basic summary. 4 kids initiating the end of their world by entering a video game and having to beat that game to create a new world to live on. But things go awry and get more complicated with the additional characters and concepts introduced by the presence of trolls and how they impact the dimension of the kids. The story includes a lot of time travel, interdimensional supervillains, clowns, Guy Fieri as the Antichrist, and Betty Crocker. All that you could want from a webcomic series. It was definitely a product of early internet meme culture, and by how little I remember of it, it got a little complicated at times due to like different timelines and in-story retconning and fourth wall breaking and just a ton of characters and multiple different versions of those characters to keep track of. But all in all, it was such a fun story to read and to be immersed in, and had interactive features, full animations, GIFs, and had some of the best music ever. A lot of the music was made by creator Toby Fox, who is also the creator of Undertale, and that was some of my most favorite music from like middle school and high school. The comic was originally intended to be a reader-driven story and only meant to last for 1 year, starting April 13th, 2009. But it ended up running for an additional 6 years and canonically ending in 2016, resulting in more complex relationships, character exploration, and actually touched on some really heartfelt themes. After all, Homestuck, in my opinion, and my memory from reading it, was really a coming-of-age story and all the messy things that comes with these kids figuring out who they are, and with the added bonus of impending doom that the world is constantly ending and they're having to be the ones to fix it. So, and the way our world is right now, I guess that's not so different from us. The news is kind of looking a little scary, but anyways, speaking of the topic of characters, hey artist, are you looking for a place to post your original characters that isn't flooded with AI art and NFTs everywhere you look, giving you constant existential dread and a diminishing hope in humanity? Well, look no further, because Unveil, the sponsor of today's video, has just the right place for you and your art. Unveil is a growing character art focused platform where you can post your own OCs and join a thriving community of like-minded artists passionate about creating their own worlds and developing their characters. You can easily post and manage all of your original characters on your own unique page. Each character page allows you to write about their lore, personality, and include multiple images of artwork that features your specific character. And because Unveil understands that us artists have a billion characters that are part of different universes and worlds, you can even group your OCs and concept art for those worlds into separate folders on your page. This also makes info dumping about your OCs more organized, since it's all in one place and not scattered about in 100 different sketchbooks. If you're feeling lost and not knowing where to start, or feeling low on character inspiration, you can use the random button to boost your creative spirit and find some new favorite artist. And it's just super fun to click the various cards and be surprised with amazing art from artists you've never seen before. And the best part of all of this is that Unveil is completely free and easy to use, so go to unveil.io or click the link in the description and join the blossoming Unveil art community today. Thank you to Unveil for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel and art community as a whole. It's definitely tough out there for us artists posting our work, and it's nice to know that platforms like Unveil are working to create better communities for us. Let's talk about my most favorite character ever, if you couldn't tell already. Nepeta Leijon, an alien called a troll, as mentioned earlier, who is a part of a whole friend group of trolls in their story. Also, I made sure to look up how to pronounce her last name, and it is Leijon. I always pronounce it as like Leijon, but it's Leijon. I remember drawing her a lot when I was actively reading the comic, deeply identifying with her as a hopeless romantic fan art enthusiast, and the cat theme was very in line with my history of being a warrior cat kid. And her type speak was really cute, and just everything in general about her was so early 2010s shade-coded media. I think the fact that she was also an artist, digitally and drawing comics with blood on her cave wall, kind of just felt like her character was a gift-wrapped present for my impressionable young mind to latch on to, like many other characters in the story, pretty much. From what I can remember, she lives in a cave and she has like a shipping wall where she tracks and projects her own assumptions about her friends and her own romantic interests onto different charts on a wall. Now, trolls' relationships are a bit different from humans and are a bit more complex. Lots of quadrants, black and red, diamonds, spades, clubs, but these relationship modes play a huge part in the interactions between the trolls and the series of events that lead up to their own session of Spurb. Okay guys, stay with me. Just know that the shipping and the role-playing is a huge part of her character and it's really important. Alright, now back to talking about our favorite kitty cat shipper, Cave Girl. Maybe it was because the era of playing Animal Jam and reading Homestuck were consecutive moments in the Shade timeline, but I always think of Nepeta as basically a wolf avatar role-playing in the Serapia? How do you pronounce that? I don't know how to pronounce that. I've read that so many times as a kid playing Animal Jam. How do you pronounce is it Serapia? Serapia? Anyways, in that forest where everyone did warrior cat roleplays, she'd be one of those players with a fox hat on and also post her shipping art to the Animal Jam gallery for everyone to see. She stays in character constantly, always speaking in asterisks, but it's kind of endearing and amusing. She's Moirails with Equius, and for all my mentally stable viewers, Moirails is a part of the quadrant system that I mentioned earlier, describing a very strong platonic relationship. I always found the relationship interesting due to the caste system based on blood color that the trolls have, since Equius societally has a higher blood caste than Nepeta, but I remember liking a lot of the headcanons between them. Kind of like a sibling dynamic a lot of the times, and there's some really cute animatics of them together and also some heart-wrenching ones that they just break my heart every time. In the comic, each character has a new world in the beginning of their respective games. These fantasy worlds follow a similar naming pattern that is typically formed as the land of blank and blank, and follows the acronym pattern of LO, insert letter here, A, insert letter here. So, for example, the main character John's world is the land of wind and shade, shortened to LOWAS or LOWAS for easy reference. So in Nepeta's case, her world is the land of little cubes and tea, which, if you're following along, the acronym would be LOLCAT, which is first, awesome. I want to go to the planet called LOLCAT, hell yeah. And second, LOLCAT is the only world in canon to have an additional qualifier in the title, so yeah. That's pretty cool. Her portrait was first on my list because I could pretty much draw her from memory. The concept was pretty simple and kind of just like a self-indulgent portrait painting for me. I think I was working on a bigger painting at the time and kind of just wanted to paint something relaxing, and Nepeta was definitely a comfort character for me for a long time. I included some actual Nepeta, aka Catmint the plant, in the painting and kind of positioned them to symbolize claw marks. I don't know if it carries across that way. Maybe if they're a little bit more diagonal and creating more of like a slashing shape, it would work, but they're still pretty. I still like how it turned out. Also, we're not going to talk about what happened post-Hive Vent with Gamzee and the jury scene and just like that whole section of the comic. That was so messed up. But yeah, that's my Nepeta piece. Moving on, we have the coolest dude ever, Dave Strider. I would say my personality was probably forged through both Nepeta and Dave equally to create the awkward, artsy bruh girl I am today, and I'm finally accepting that part of myself. It's just the way it is. Dave Strider is one of the main kids in Homestuck, the third one to be introduced in the comic, I think. And ever since then, the world has truly never been the same. He was always trying to act super cool, always referred to doing things ironically, which I definitely did not latch on to saying for a ridiculous period of time and thought was the funniest thing in the world as a 13-year-old. To non-readers of Homestuck, the blessed few who innocently clicked on this video, the best way I could describe him is kind of like a early internet meme lord type character. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, he's definitely a fan favorite with his iconic baseball tee and aviator shades and record iconography. What more could you want in character design? That's like peak character design. Another one of my favorite parts of his character was the name Strider, which in the first beginning pages of Homestuck, before it gained more popularity, the writer Andrew Hussey would allow audience members to pitch in ideas for names for the characters. And Dave Strider was submitted by user Doomish on the MS Paint forums. The name is in fact referencing the alias Strider of the character Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, which is one of my favorite books and film trilogies of all time. So of course I was gonna latch onto this character. What else is a girl supposed to do? This is even hinted at later because if you're familiar with the Narsil blade in the Lord of the Rings series, the blade that was shattered by Isildur when he was trying to defeat Sauron, Dave also eventually has a shattered sword at the hilt in his story, which also references back to Lord of the Rings. So yeah, pretty cool. I love Homestuck. It was so good. Dave is also sort of a confusing character since he's able to meddle with time travel with being a time player. There are many alternate Daves that try to go back in time to rewrite certain events and change the course of the game, and right off the bat of the comic, it gets a little confusing, so I won't be attempting to explain it here. But I do want to mention I thought Coin Flip Dave was pretty cool, since he got to be in like a dream bubble after death and get to speak to Aradia, one of the other trolls, about being time players and talking about like time travel and stuff. But it's still pretty hard to remember all the different Daves and all the timelines surrounding them. When Dave ascends to God tier, he has the title Knight of Time, with the broken Royal Derringer at his side, and assumes the powers of time as a weapon, which is really cool. But I really wanted to take it back to the beginning and start with an earlier version of Dave still on Earth. For the portrait, I really wanted to redraw this scene from Act 2 from the animation Dave ascend to the highest point of the building. I love the music for this animation and used to listen to it all the time on Bandcamp or on YouTube. And if anyone watching this video isn't interested at all with reading the Homestuck comic, you should definitely check out the music. It's so good. There's a shot where he's holding Little Cal and meeting Bro at the top of their apartment building to fight. It has a whole meteor shower going on around them, and the music on this animation is really cool, and the imagery is really striking as well, and I wanted to paint something in my own style inspired by it. Ironically, of course. I spent some time fiddling with the right composition, but eventually found a pose and point of view that I liked. Since there is this idea of ascension and like moving up, ascending, I thought it would make sense for the composition to have a lifted feeling, since we as the viewers in the piece are looking up at Dave. Our eye line is kind of ascending, our heads are going up. So yeah, let's go art fundamentals, composition, design, really putting that to work. Okay, future Shay here. Pardon my voice, I'm indeed very sick, but I ended up not being satisfied with how this Dave piece turned out, so I spent the entire day today before this video posted, so I ended up redoing it completely and adding it into this video. So disregard what past Shay is talking about. Actually didn't really like how it turned out, so I ended up redoing it. All right, bye. I struggled a little bit with the colors since the original color palette was extremely saturated, but after making it a little less saturated and almost a little bit more pink, because I love pink, so of course I'm gonna put pink in a painting, I was liking the piece more and more, how it was turning out, and I had a bunch of fun doing the paint over section with the bits of purple on his face to contrast the more saturated red, and the blues coming from Cal's shirt. It was super fun. It was a lot of really fun color moments. I also fixed some of the proportions of Dave, since he's technically, he's 13 years old at the beginning of Homestuck, and it made me realize I don't really draw a lot of kid characters, and Homestuck is basically just a bunch of goofy kids. So adding a little bit of acne and kind of rounding out his facial features really helped to carry across a younger looking age. And there's my finished Dave piece. I had so many initial ideas for how I wanted to paint him, and definitely have some ideas that I want to come back to maybe in a later video, but especially drawing him in his god tier outfit. And I haven't even talked about Dave's sprite yet, but here he is, a simple interpretation of this scene and one of my favorite animations in the whole comic. And those were some redraws of some of my favorite Homestuck characters. I originally had a whole list of characters that I wanted to draw, especially including like Dave Sprite and of course Dave Peta Sprite. We didn't even talk about Dave Peta Sprite. That was like the combination of like two of my favorite characters in one. Amazing. So I guess a part 2 may be on the horizon if you guys are interested. I definitely would love to draw more Homestuck characters, and it was kind of surreal working on this video and jumping back into Homestuck and remembering everything. Since being an artist and posting to YouTube is my full-time job, it was so strange rereading parts of Homestuck and sitting back and saying like, wow, this is actually my job. I'm reading Homestuck and eventually I'm gonna be paid for it. Like, that's crazy. 13-year-old Shay would never have imagined this. Homestuck was a really big part of my artistic development as a young artist, and I made countless pages of fan art that really helped me to practice my skills and ability to express myself through my artwork. And I have a lot of nostalgia reading the comic and listening to the music and just getting lost in this fantasy world of silly characters being stupid and figuring themselves out, as I was too at the time. And it was an escape through harder times in my life and now serves as inspiration for my own projects and characters. Fair warning to anyone who does want to read Homestuck after watching this. If you're still interested with all my ridiculous explanations, the language does get pretty explicit at some times, and the comic did have some like not so great things pertaining to people with disabilities and kind of more offensive humor. So just be aware of that before going in. Kind of just imagine you're watching like a early 2000s like comedy horror movie. It's around the same, it's about on par with that. Gay jokes and all, and I do think the comic gets better as you move out of the first couple acts, and the writer themselves actually does apologize in the actual story about certain jokes, so just be aware of that before going into it, but I think it's worth it. It's a really fun story. I'm also aware that not all my audience may have been interested in or knew about Homestuck when they were watching this video, so I appreciate all of you who still watch to support my art and my channel. You guys get my deepest gratitude and love for making it all the way through that. Oh my gosh. And a big thank you again to Unveil for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. You can check out the link in the description, as well as check out my own account and maybe follow me on there to see Bill and Saul's official character profiles. But yeah, that's it for me. There will not be any video next week. I gotta take a break. I was feeling a little bit burnt out making this video and it was a little bit stressful, but I will be more active on Instagram with Reels content and posting more, so make sure to go follow me there. Thank you all for watching. This video was really goofy and fun to work on, and I hope to do more redraws like this in the future. All right, bye guys.